Hi, it's Troy at the Full Setup here, back with another video for you today, and today we're going to take a look at another bargain processor. Now, I was recently hunting around on eBay and I came across this. Now, this is a Xeon 2623 V4 processor. It's a 4-core, 8-thread Broadwell-E, I think, Broadwell-E processor, and I managed to win it for £41, or the equivalent of just over $50. So why did I get it so cheap? Well, there's a few reasons why. Firstly, you need to use this processor on X99 motherboard, which will come at a bit of a premium, but you can pick these up for about £150 if you hunt around. Slightly cheaper as well on eBay, so that's one reason why it was cheap. Also, again, with it being on the X99 platform, it's something that you normally associate with sort of performance i7s or Xeons, like 10, 12, 100 core Xeons. So I didn't think a lot of people were going to bid on this 4-core processor. Also as well, the one thing I will have to mention, this is an engineering sample. Now, one thing that you normally associate with engineering samples is that they come at a lower clock rate. For example, my 2620, which I think was a 2.4 gigahertz processor retail, only came in clocked at 2.2 gigahertz. Now, this one's got me a little bit confused because instead of having the model number on it and then ES for engineering sample, it's just got Intel Confidential written on the processor. And I think this is why I actually have a full, almost retail version of this processor, because it comes with its 2.6 gigahertz clock rate, which does turbo boost to 3.2 gigahertz, and we've also got 10 megabytes of smart cache. Now, back to the turbo boost for a second as well. Here's just a quick bit of footage of me running Prime 95, so we're putting it under full load. And as you can see, the max turbo boost is only about 2.8 gigahertz. So there's all the specs, and there's the amazing price that I got it for. But what's the most important thing? How well does it game? Will the lower clock rate cause any bottlenecks? Or will the fact that it's hyper-threaded, will that sort of close up the bottleneck gap? Well, I really wanted to test that, so we've got a few games that I'm going to test it with you today. But a little bit about the system that we're going to be using as well. It's this system behind me here, which I will come back and do a build. I'm going to do my Ryzen build in this for you, so please subscribe to the channel. And I'm pairing it with an X99 Deluxe motherboard, which I picked up £150 open box, just over £150. We've got 16 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance DDR4, running at 2133 megahertz, and I'm pairing it with an MSi GTX 1070 Aero. I've decided not to overclock it at all. As for my storage solution as well, I've just got a 240 gigabyte SSD for my OS, and I've got a 1 terabyte hard drive for my games. So let's test some games out then. Moving on to some gameplay then. Well, first, as you can see on the screen here, we've got the Heaven benchmark. Now, in the top right-hand corner, you're going to see the MSi Afterburner overlay. Really what we want to be looking at here, because we want to see if this processor is going to be bottlenecking, is the GPU usage. That's right in the top right-hand corner. Just after GPU, we want that to be running at 99% most of the time. You might see the odd dip, but we need it close to 99% all of the time to make sure we haven't got a bottleneck. As you can see, Heaven here, we had a minimum FPS of 25.9. We had a max FPS of 198 and an average of 91.3. That's on ultra settings, max AA and max tessellation. Moving on to some actual gameplay footage, and so we're going to start with Rise of the Tomb Raider. Now, this is a game that I always associate with being very GPU heavy and not that CPU heavy. As you can see here as well by the overlay, we've got absolutely no GPU bottlenecks. We're running this at very high settings, and the FPS is way over 100. So Rise of the Tomb Raider performs absolutely fantastic. So what about some CPU intensive games then? Well, moving on to GTA 5. I apologise, it's not actual gameplay footage. I've only just installed GTA 5 on this system, and I'm a little bit tied up with time, and I haven't been able to get my game saves over. But as you can see, it is causing bottlenecks. It's bottlenecking it by about 25%. We're having frame rates almost going down to the low 60s. So that's definitely going to cause stress to this system. It's a game that I would recommend playing at 1440p very high instead of 1080p very high. Moving on to the final game that I really wanted to test today is another very CPU intensive game, and that's Battlefield 1. As you can see, it's almost the same as GTA 5. We're getting about a 25% GPU bottleneck. But one thing you're going to notice here is that the frame rates seem to be really all over the place. Like, the processor's really quite struggling. So I decided to do some average frames per second tests when I wasn't recording. When I wasn't recording, the frame rates were a lot more stable, and I was finding that I was getting an average of about 85 frames per second. But still, for GTX 1070, it should be going way over 100 FPS in Battlefield 1. So there's the gaming footage of the Intel 2623 Xeon in action. Now, I think we always knew it was going to bottleneck in CPU intensive games. Probably the best graphics card you could pair this with if you didn't want any bottlenecks for 1080p gaming would be an RX 480 or a GTX 1060. Now, if you did want to pair it with a 1070 or higher, I would 100% recommend playing it at 1440p. That will greatly reduce your bottlenecks. But should you go out and buy one, well, it's very awkward, isn't it? Well, you have to buy an X99 motherboard, which comes at a premium price, but that is going to put you on the step up for the X99 platform. The processors are coming down in price secondhand. The 5820K that I normally have in this, you can pick up very cheap, so you could use this as a base system. Obviously, we've got Ryzen, which is maybe making X99 not look so attractive. As a Ryzen owner, again, absolutely love my Ryzen processor, but we do know it doesn't perform as well at gaming if you are gaming at 1080p, and there are a lot of bugs to be ironed out as well. So if you don't want to go Ryzen, you want to step up to an X99, this processor is perfect. But what if you just want a gaming PC? Well, probably not. You could maybe look at maybe an older Sandy Bridge processor like an i5 2500K, which still performs absolutely fantastic. Although again, you're going to be spending a lot on a second-hand motherboard that's been overclocked for 5 years. So really, if I wanted to build a gaming PC on a budget, I would still be saying to you, probably go and buy an Intel G4560, which doesn't perform as well as this processor. Buy yourself a Z170 or Z270 motherboard and upgrade to an i5 or an i7 at a later date. But with all that being said, for £41 or $50 for a 4-core 8-thread Xeon processor, which still performs really well in gaming, you can't really make any complaints at it. It's an absolutely fantastic processor, and if you did buy one, I think you'd be really happy with it. So there we go, just another video for you. It's been a while since I've been on camera, so if you like it, tell me why. If you don't like it, tell me why, and please subscribe to my channel.